Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com.
And I'm Bob. How's it going?
Bob and I are here today to talk about the 2025 Atomic Maverick 105 CTI. I've been looking forward to having this conversation for a while, and we actually just were chatting about it. We haven't even done an in-studio ski review in like, what, a month?
A month and a half. I think
Yeah.
kind of mid-February was the last time we were in here.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to kind of doing an in-studio deep dive for the first time in a while. I think it's still fair to say that the Atomic Maverick collection as a whole is still relatively new.
Yeah, and especially because this is kind of the first changing.
First time it has changed.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of a milestone for a ski or a line is
Yes,
when does this Maverick become something slightly different?
Yep.
So
we've been on the Mavericks for a few years now. At least for the TI Mavericks, we've had the 88, 95, and 100. For 2025, the 100 goes away. All of the narrower skis stay the same. So 95, 88, also 86C.
Yep.
And then instead of 100, we get new 105 CTI that we will talk about today. I've got a pair here. Bob's got a pair there. This is the pair that we've been spending a lot of time on, although I'd say I've spent time on several different pairs of Maverick 105s. And then we also get a Maverick 115 CTI over here. So this is kind of cool. We've known about it for, I suppose, a while now. I didn't know the details really until I arrived in Utah earlier, like back in early January, and got to see them. But I did get to join a conversation with Atomic and kind of their product development team. I have no idea, maybe a year and a half ago, kind of talking about potential directions for the Maverick line. One of my opinions was to bring it more into the freeride world by adding some wider options.
Yep.
So cool to see that come true. And then Darren Rolfs was instrumental in the development of these skis. So I'm just, going to make a claim that Darren Rolfs and I had the same idea.
Who would have thought that Darren Rolfs would want like a big, powerful freeride ski for going fast?
Well, I think when you think about him as a skier, and especially if you watch him ski, if you're a fan of his skiing, like the guy absolutely rips, but he does it in like freeride terrain with generally a lot of fresh snow. So I think like if you want to have a really simple, quick way of thinking about Maverick 105 and 115 here is through the lens of someone like Darren Rolfs.
Yep.
So, really cool.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add? Do you have any profound early thoughts before we dive into construction?
You neglected the Maven 103 CTI. I don't know if you had that on your plate for later, but
and well deserving of a mention. I would say as far as new women's skis for 2025, I can't think of a ski that has had a broader appeal in terms of different people that have skied it and their overwhelmingly positive reactions.
As like the 93, like the Maven 93.
I'm thinking particularly of that one, just for new 2025 skis, just among like ski test, media days, stuff like that. Everyone that skis that Maven 103 is just like immediately in love with it.
Well, and that makes sense because everyone liked that 93C as well. So I think that's kind of a
natural progression.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's it for kind of the baseline info. Let's just get right into the nitty-gritty stuff. Bob, if you wouldn't mind just kind of taking us through the overall construction of these skis.
Big difference here, and I have this 100 that I'll reference from time to time
and
here.
I've got the 88 behind me. These are 2024 if you're curious what the other skis up here are doing.
We just like to put skis up here.
Yeah.
But one of the main differences is just in the wood core construction. So this 100 here has always had a poplar wood core, 2 sheets of metal, and just kind of really leaned on the fact that it's lightweight and stiff. So kind of like the metallic version of a head core 99 is kind of an interesting way to think about it. With this 105 CTI, we're moving into a blend of ash, which is a much denser wood. We see that in a lot of race skis. I think that's a Darren Ralph's, influence right there. That someone with a race background is going to want to put denser ash wood here, but less metal. We do get carbon stringers in here as well, so it's not quite as damp from a metallic perspective, nor is it as precise. I kind of always felt like this was a very unique blend of being stiff and light with metal. And if I could point to one drawback, it's like, man, that thing really wants to hook into a turn. So I think that by widening this, putting a little bit more of that taper, we'll talk about that in shape.
The shape
but also,
is fascinating.
But like substituting that, that bulk of metal for ash wood, I think also gives the ski a really interesting kind of character. And I think that substitution is the big difference here. So relying more on wood to handle the stability, power, and dampness versus metal is certainly kind of shows that move into that direction.
And not tremendously heavy by any means. That 185 that you've got over there, I believe that came in at 2050 grams. 2050. This is the 178. This came in just about 100 grams less at, say, 1950. So considering its width, considering what's inside of it, I think that's, it's not like crazy mind-blowingly light, nor is it heavy. I think it's a really nice figure for weight for a ski like this.
And then they use the same type of Duracap construction as the Maverick 100, where it's it's capped where it's rockered, sidewall where it's cambered, and then back to cap where it's more rockered in the profile there.
Now, blurring the line between construction and shape, this does receive the new Horizon Tech design.
So
only in the tip.
Right.
So that's differing from, say, something like the Bent 100 that has it in the tip and the tail. But you do see that lengthened or elongated Horizon Tech in the tip of this ski.
And it does make it a little bit more smooth and stable. I think I noticed it more in softer snow than firmer snow. This Horizon Tech, which came up closer to the tip, really that had to do with that, precise hooking into the turn as well. Whereas this, in conjunction with that shaping, a little bit more of that wood reinforced tip in the Horizon Tech, just allows it to float and smear and adds that free ride component without taking away from kind of the bulk of the ski in terms of the power and stability.
It's pretty interesting. I think I think there are a number of differences between, say, this ski and the 100, but I think the changes in the tip create the biggest effect on snow.
And we've noticed a pretty significant difference in the flex pattern as well, where this thing, definitely has a little bit more of that round flex pattern.
You want to give that 100 a flex?
But it's not easy. Like this thing is considerably stiffer in the flex than the 105.
And this one's got like kind of that suppleness to the shovel too, which I think like it places it more squarely in the freeride world. So there's almost like, I would say there's a pretty substantial split now between the Maverick 95 and 105. And like, that's not a bad thing. I think there should be a big split between a ski that's 95 and a ski that's 105. So I think it's cool to see that development. And then moving along to shape here, obviously we've got that new Horizon Tech. Obviously we're 105 underfoot now. Would you mind holding that 100 up? Because something that I think is interesting is, in my opinion, the rocker profile hasn't changed drastically. It may have lengthened just a little bit in the tip, but say that's about the length of tip rocker in this ski, and I bet you're a very similar length. We have slightly different lengths in totality. And then, to me, the same is true in terms of tail rocker. There's really not a huge difference there.
Yours is a little bit more rounded, you know, when you
That's what I
talk
was-
about kind of the taper look to it. This is a little bit more squared off.
Yeah, the roundness is kind of the
Yeah.
only adjective I was going to use to describe the difference in shape. And then if you want to flip it back over, to me the big difference, which definitely like changes the way they ski, is the taper. The
Yep.
amount of taper in the tip of the 105 CTI is substantial.
Yeah, that was, I mean, it's a visual cue.
Yes.
When you click into it, and you had even
100%.
mentioned it this morning. You're
I
like,
was
whoa,
I have
look
so
at all
much
that
ski
tip.
in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that also comes through in the actual on snow experience as well.
Yeah, so it's I mean it's really cool. Like I like when a ski company can really lean on shape to accomplish different things in different snow conditions, and I think that's like 100% the case here. Not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but in soft snow you have like a crazy amount of float.
Right.
And you're benefiting from like the full length of this tip. On firmer snow conditions, easy. It's almost like that part of the ski doesn't exist. So like today was like an eye-opening day for me, and I always like, we've skied it so much. The timeline in Premiere Pro,
Yeah.
it's really intimidating right now by just the sheer amount of footage. But today was a nice reminder for me because we were just basically skiing groomers. And yeah, I think the first thing I said when I clicked in today was, that's a lot of tip.
Yeah.
You know, I ski a lot of center-mounted skis or more centered skis. Like on paper, something like the Bent 100 aligns more with how I like to ski. So it's like visually kind of just striking to me of how much ski is in front of me. But on firm snow, like anything here up is like really not ever touching the snow. So it's like that doesn't exist.
Right.
So I don't know.
Well, it's
just
reflected in the turn radius too.
19.
This
Yeah.
is 19, yours is 18 there.
Right.
And this is longer. I think it's like 21 and a half or something like that. I can't see. 21 and a half.
Yeah.
So, you know, that just kind of shows the difference in where,
Pulling it down.
yeah, you're pulling the contact point down.
Yeah.
And you're not getting that crazy precise engagement. You're more getting that,
Yeah.
the ease of use into there.
Ease of use is, yeah.
Yeah. And we kind of
Oh,
joked
the
about
shovel,
that,
for sure.
that turn shape as well. And, you know, it kind of blurs between the shape of the ski and the performance in terms of our conversation here. But like in the catalog, you were noting that Atomic states it as both short and long turn
Yeah.
accessible. And
Yeah.
we
For
kinda
turn,
gotta-
it just says turns, and then it's like turns underlined, and then under that it says short and long.
Right.
And I was like, okay, well, that's a little bit silly,
Yeah.
but it's true.
Right. You
And
got to
like-
think about it and you're like, all right, this
Right.
actually makes sense.
Right. And we've found that it's like the medium turns
Right.
where maybe it doesn't like, it just doesn't jive super
Right.
well with that medium radius round turn. But that's really not its purpose.
No.
And that feels like a pretty good segue to squarely get into performance. We almost always start with on-piste. Is it going to just completely throw you for a loop if we do it backwards? Because I kind of want to go mentally for me in like chronological order.
I'm pretty good at adjusting on the fly. Let's see how it goes.
All right. So my first time skiing the Maverick 105 CTI was in like thigh-deep snow.
Yeah.
I was at Powder Mountain. If you've seen the trip report video with Atomic, you've seen most of this footage. I had skied all morning on a bent Chetler 120, so like premier powder ski, one of the best powder skis in the world in my opinion, and then switched to this. And this thing is an absolute blast in deep snow.
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of a ski that's 105 underfoot that has more float.
So like Black Crowes, Atris,
Atris
Solomon,
is the one that
QST 106.
Well, that's 106 underfoot. So
Yeah.
that's slightly different. No, but like let's include the QST 106, and especially this is super relevant because we just were skiing it out in Alta and like their sister companies.
Right.
Yes, I would say the Maverick 105 CTI has more just pure float in like bottomless snow.
Yeah.
And it's all because of this tip.
Right.
So yeah, Atris, QST,
Like a Core 105.
Yep, 100%.
Yep.
The one ski that I can get a little bit hung up on is Blaze 106.
Sure.
Like Blaze 106 has tremendous float. But this ski, like if you're considering this as a powder ski and you're worried, I wouldn't be tremendously worried unless you're the type of skier that really wants like that bent Shetler 120. And honestly, like I skied these back to back, like Maverick 105 to Maverick 115.
Yeah.
And you'll probably think I'm crazy, but there's not a huge difference in how they float and like interact with truly just bottomless deep snow.
Especially if it's dry. I think that,
Yes.
when it's
Correct.
dry, you're kind of, doesn't matter as much if you're on something like that, like the wider.
Yep.
You're gonna feel it on your thighs either way,
Right.
which is great.
Yeah. The thing that like that really, really impressed me, I mean, just its float did too, but like we use the word like porpoising.
Yep.
And like this, the way that this tip is designed, kind of the, I don't know, it's not like a super extended rocker, but there's a good amount of rocker up there. Plus the Horizon Tech, plus that nice supple flex is like, it's not good to like look at your tips, but if you happen to glance down when you were skiing deep snow, it was like a nice kind of confidence inspiring, refreshing reminder just that you could see your tip. Be like, oh yeah, look, it's right there.
And that it
this
does
snow is so deep, and it's right there.
And it does a lot of that steering for you.
Totally.
Like, there's some other
Effortless
skis.
steering in soft snow.
Yeah, like a K2 Mindbender 106C. We kind of talk
great.
about the
Yep.
tail
Yep.
as being more of that rudder. This feels like more of the tip is doing more of the steering.
I agree 100%, which I'm going to use as another segue, sticking to off-piste, but kind of thinking more back here in Vermont, tighter trees,
Yeah.
spots that require more maneuverability. How do you feel about like edge release out of the tail and kind of the swish factor?
I mean, it's still like got a pretty stiff tail. So
I agree.
you do have to do a little bit more of that work.
I agree.
You're not getting that Mindbender 106 just like,
Or Blaze,
right,
106
just
or now
smear-
104.
Right, and even those are more directional like
Correct.
this.
Yeah.
As opposed to that Atris, which is obviously going to be able to
Yeah.
swivel a little bit more.
Or like to stick within Atomic, bent
right,
110.
110, sure.
Is drastically different in how it pivots and smears in soft snow. And this like basically feels the same right here, but then the tail is supportive.
Right, it's effort dependent.
Yes.
Which is kind of something that people should be aware of when they're purchasing skis. Is like, oh, especially if there's a little bit of density, solidness to the snow, where the ski is going to hook in and actually interact, as opposed to pure powder where it's just going to fluff around.
Correct.
The denser the snow, the firmer the snow, or heavier, the more this tail is going to interact and the more you need to be ready for it as a skier.
Yep. So, something to keep in mind if you're choosing this ski for tight Vermont trees,
Yeah.
I would say like the important factor there is you need to be a pretty good skier. And as long as you're a pretty good skier, you're not going to have any trouble on it whatsoever.
Yeah.
But like if you're not actively unweighting the back of the ski and stuff like that and not like putting it where it needs to go, it wouldn't be the easiest thing in the world. And I think like length choice there is interesting. I've been skiing the 185 and I really like the 185, and for how I like to ski the Maverick 105 and for the things that I think it does really well, I want the 185. If I was buying one for use here in Vermont, I might go 178. But what I really like about the Maverick 105 is skiing it fast.
Sure.
And like maybe that's the last part of the off-piste conversation is everything that we just said that can make it more challenging in tight terrain is what makes it so good for somebody like Darren Ralphs.
Who's going to treat it like a race ski in
Correct.
crud, chop,
Correct.
wind-blown snow,
Yes.
adverse conditions
Yes.
in terrain.
Yeah.
I think that's where this thing really comes into its own for
I
sure.
agree 100%. Like when you're talking about off-piste, I really think about more western open terrain.
Yeah.
Both because they get more snow and because it's more open and you're generally skiing faster.
Yeah.
Can it work here in Vermont? Absolutely. Would I rather ski a bent 110? I would say yes.
Yeah, or a 100.
Sure.
You know, just
Sure. Yeah.
based on
It just makes it easier.
Yeah.
And then like this morning was interesting. This isn't really off piste, but like the second run that we did this morning, kind of skiing down bumpy, weird half groomed nosedive. Like I was very happy to be on this ski.
Right.
Because I was like, okay, these conditions are bad, but like this ski can handle it no problem.
Yeah.
So I think that is really cool. And again, like go check out Darren Rolf's Instagram. Like you'll see a lot of 115. I think he spends a ton of time on the 115, but you can watch him just rip big high speed lines on the 105 too.
Must be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's about all I have to say about its off-piste performance.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add?
Not really.
Anything we missed?
I mean, I had it on pretty much everything but deep snow.
Yes, I did the deep testing.
But, you know, thinking about it and how much time we spent on it, I'm like, I've had it in literally everything else.
We really, yeah.
You know, like there's there's nothing that we haven't tried this ski on.
Well, and it's like kind of interesting, like, I don't know, for if you want a peek inside my brain, like I felt a little bit bad that it had taken us this long to put this video together.
Yeah.
Considering like Atomic brought me on this cool trip and like they've done a lot of really nice things for us. They sent us these skis to test and to ski.
Right.
And like sometimes I get like hung up. I'm like, we need to like get this out like quick, just like so Atomic's happy. But I'm glad that we didn't rush to get it out because, like you said, we've now skied it like in everything.
Right. You could have just made a powder video on it and been like, this thing's great.
Sweet.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Go get it.
Yeah. So, anyways, moving on to on-piste. I don't know that we need to like get super hung up on on-piste performance, but I would say that most skiers that buy a Maverick 105 will find themselves on a groomer from time to time. So, your thoughts?
My big, I don't want to say it's a hang-up, but the thing that I struggled with most was the turn shape. So we talked about short, long.
Yeah.
I found that to be true.
Yeah.
This ski was easy to not engage the shovel and really start mid-body back and really engage and get nice short swing turns.
More skidded.
More skidded turns.
Yeah.
You know, and we were talking about a coworker of ours that we skied with at the ski test. Very good technical skier. I didn't think he was going to love this, but because he makes nice short turns,
yes,
he was like, "Oh, I love that Maverick 105 CTI."
Yep.
You know, kind of
and
soft
he's also
snow.
like, he's a very good skier.
Yeah.
So like that kind of unweighting and like being active, he does that effortlessly and naturally.
So I really liked it for that. And then on the opposite side, I felt like it also made much longer turns than that 19-meter arc states.
Yeah.
So
super G.
Right. If you don't take that more direct pushing approach to it and let it run, that's when it starts to really feel fun. And you do feel that stability. You feel the power of the ash come through.
Yeah.
And you feel that directional shape. It's really rewarding in that long, more drawn-out carved turn.
Yeah.
You know, when we got it, like, probably the worst conditions we skied in it were kind of refrozen groomers where you kind of push through that top layer and into the more, you know, ball-bearing, marbly style
or
stuff.
Or just really firm.
Or really firm.
Yeah.
And, like, not a whole lot at 105 is going to handle that really, really well.
Right.
So I wouldn't put that as a strength on this ski, but it wasn't offensive either. I found nothing about this that was like offensive or untoward in terms of on-piste skiing.
No.
And then the softer you get it, I skied this thing Monday in nice spring conditions, like kind of stickier snow. And really just, once you started going side to side on the trail, it made a lot more sense.
Big sweepy turns.
Yeah, either on the edge or side to side.
Yep.
But medium radius turns wasn't really its forte.
Yes, and that's in my opinion where it's really different than the 88 and the 95.
Yeah.
The 88 and the 95, to me, they feel happiest in that kind of mid-radius carving zone.
Yeah.
Where I couldn't agree more that this, like, I just like making huge turns on it.
Yeah.
And that took me a little while to figure out, probably because I was skiing it, You can just put this thing away. I was trying to ski it like that thing, probably.
Sure.
You know, it's like just expecting a little more out of the shovel in terms of engagement. And that's like something that you have to be like a little bit careful or at least aware of, is because of the length of rocker and the slightly softer flex pattern and the New Horizon tech, you can't expect this to like engage and pull you into a turn.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't. So yeah, you kind of just have to like, it's like this delicate, not delicate, but it's a balance of your weighting. And like, to me, once you find the sweet spot on it on a groomer, it's a blast. And for me, that sweet spot is like, yeah, like 40 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour, and big sweepy turns where you're kind of just letting the shovel, like, it's like suspension. It's like absorbing whatever you go over, and then you get like the power and the consistency out of the midfoot of the ski and back through the tail.
Yeah, and it's funny because stuff like that, when you see it on video, it kind of gets like mistaken as chatter when the tip of the ski is doing this.
Correct.
And then in reality on your feet, like that's what you want.
Correct.
If it was not doing that, it would
terrifying.
go to your body, and then it wouldn't feel good.
And then you wouldn't want to ski fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, I've seen a lot of comments. I feel like I've seen more comments this year, like pointing out footage that we post and saying things like, I don't know, I see a lot of chatter.
Yeah.
And yeah, like tips moving is not chatter. It's almost like the opposite of chatter. Like chatter is hard to see on camera. You can, but it's happening so fast that it's like, it's a much higher frequency.
You can see it better in like the still photos that we take.
Yeah, of the tip like boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, off the snow.
Yeah, but it would be like if a trophy truck had no suspension. You
Right,
know? Like
right.
It's,
Yeah.
like that's what it's doing, is it's doing the
Just be like,
suspension.
right.
Right.
Like hitting everything and getting deflected. And like, yeah.
So pretty interesting how they designed that into the ski.
Yeah. So it seems like we agree. Highlights of the Maverick 105, big turns, stability at speed, soft snow prowess. I would say it is a true freeride ski.
Yeah, I mean, it really does all of those adverse conditions and terrain really well.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a highlight for me that I found was like kind of the worse the conditions are, the more confident you feel on it.
Well, and bringing it back to Darren Ralphs, like big Tahoe guy.
Right.
Like think about the Tahoe, like the range of Tahoe conditions. Because in my mind, I was just thinking, like trying to come up with what mountain would I want to ski it more than any other mountain. And I think my answer would be Mammoth. That thing would charge.
Yeah.
Like it would just eat up like big lines at Mammoth. It'd be so fun.
Yeah, I mean, it just does a great job taking that fall line. I think it really likes to attack that fall line.
100%. Yeah. And, you know, if a tree gets in your way, it'll move. I don't want to I don't want to just pigeonhole it as a big mountain chargey ski. Like there is some agility to it as well. I just, you know, it's not as smeary as a bent 110, which I think is important for people to know about.
Yeah, if your focus is tighter spaces, there's better options.
Yeah, depending on your ski.
Yeah.
I'd say like, I don't know, like I'm sure you don't have any problem on it.
Not really, but the bent 110 is a lot easier.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's a great ski.
Yeah, we've really done, and we've done it all. You know, it's really like a comprehensive, you know, overarching view of lots of different terrain and conditions for sure.
Have you skied this one?
Nope.
You should get on that one.
Okay.
Just for fun.
Yeah.
It's not tremendously different, but it is big,
Yeah.
which turns it into a little bit more to handle.
That's okay.
I would say like,
Figure it out.
just speaking to the general skiing population, like 95% of people should be right here.
Yeah.
If like this, and even like talking to Darren Ralphs, he was like, yeah, that thing's like sweet in Alaska.
Yeah, it's pretty specific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're not skiing Alaska, I'd stick with the 105. So anyways, that was really fun. Nice to be back here in the studio, kind of chatting about skis. Let us know if you have any questions. We'll try and work this guy in, because I've got some fun footage on that.
Maybe see how it does in the spring slush around here.
Yeah. Yep.
I bet it's pretty good.
Yeah, we got, what, 2 weeks left of
Yep.
spring slush? So, anyways, let us know if you have any Maverick 105 CTI questions, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.